Videos will be hurtling about if this one collects. Leicester never won the Lincoln. Folk Hero, who has won a Lincoln, he won the Irish Lincoln last year. Looks tremendously well, very strongly fancied, but strictly on some people's ratings, has got a bit to find. Leicester doesn't have much to find, but he is drawn 19 over on this side, and if the some fancied horses get over to the far side, they in theory have an advantage on yesterday's running. The 7, Leicester Piggott on Folk Hero. That's BONOL. BONOL ran against Crackerval on Thursday. Very, very heavily supported that day, but Crackerval won absolutely brilliantly that day. But don't forget, Crackerval beat Ile de Bourmont 2 seasons ago, back to his best. He represents Crackerval in this race with about 10 stone 7, which you'd have to fancy him. BONOL, Peter Easterby said, looked wonderfully well after his race, and so he takes his chance. He has a decent chance, I think, but drawn over in the middle, drawn 11, ridden by Kevin Hobson, very decent apprentice. It's number 1, BONOL, the top weight, with 10 stone. Leicester cantering down in the striped colours, Folk Hero, cantering through, and then LaFontaine, there's LaFontaine. Dick Whitford's Sporting Life ratings put this way ahead, and quite a few people say LaFontaine can't lose on the handicap. Got blinkers on for the first time. Those form figures this year are runs in France, but he didn't deliver his promise last year. And the Lincoln's not a great race for horses who have got any doubts about their temperament, and certainly it's not a race I like to support horses with doubts about their temperament. LaFontaine, an able horse, very, very well handicapped, drawn 4 over on the far side. The grey going down there is Greenwood Star, but here's the betting.
And I've just heard Herons Hollow's gone to 8 to 1 from 9 to 1. Black Minstrel 9 to 1. Folk Hero is at 10s. Abington at 12s, with Cypress Sky also at 12 to 1. Parlour Game is 14 to 1 from 12s. BONOL steady at 14s. King's Ride, BEZIQUE and SAHER all go out to 16 to 1 from 14 to 1. Glasgow Central is at 15s, and LaFontaine 16 to 1 from 14 to 1. Greenwood Star now 20 to 1 from 16s, and POYLE Crusher steady at 20s. LINGDALE and RENOVATE go to 33 to 1 from 25 to 1. BROOK and Hurricane Hill both 33s. Raconteur at 40s, and Welcome's gone out to 50 to 1 from 33 to 1. They all show.
And that betting is really very symptomatic of what the race is about. It's a very, very open contest at this stage. Parlour Game, this grey on the left, number 5. Parlour Game, an Epsom fancy this. The ground just might be too soft for her. She's a really good, consistent sort last year. I remember trainer Ron Smythe tipped her for everybody on ITV at the Epsom meeting, and she duly whizzed in. But she's a really tough, consistent performer. This is her last run before she goes to the States, incidentally. But and Ron says she's very, very well, but he hopes the ground wasn't too soft. That's really will be what's against her. Parlour Game, drawn 13 in the middle, so Willie Carson will have the option to go either side, and I imagine he will attack across to the left. I mean, I can't tell you that yesterday they were getting about 5 lengths the ones from there, right on the far side, but we'll have to see. LINGDALE coming towards us. LINGDALE with Graham Sexton in the saddle. Didn't win last year, but is a subject of some reasonably confident forecasts, 33 to 1, but I mean some quite noted judges have been keen on this. Notably Mr. G. Good of, or Good as Graham likes to be called, I'm sorry. LINGDALE here, coming towards us with Graham Sexton from Bill Elsie's stable. Pretty forward this one, and this is the sort of race where you might well have a bit of each way on a horse like this. LINGDALE, drawn number 15, so likely if they split into 2 groups as I expect them to, likely to come up on this side. 18 over there is BROOK. Won a couple last year at Stockton and Beverley, and 33 to 1, but the selection of that noted pundit Jack Milan of the Mail, and who doesn't select things just with a pin, and BROOK ran very consistently last year, as you see. I just don't quite see him being good enough myself. There we are. But BROOK, Ken Gilly, the sponsors here, says that there's been some good money for BROOK during the week, so 33 to 1 is not without a chance at all. 6 is Greenwood Star. Probably know this one. It follow racing at all. It's an easy horse to pick up in running to some extent. It's going to drop something before it runs now. It tends to drop out, Greenwood Star. It gets way out the back sometimes, but finishes very, very strongly. and comes from Gavin Hunter's stable. Most of Gavin's horses have just needed the run, and the Greenwood Star might as well. Paul Cook was talking to us yesterday, drawn 3, therefore almost certainly will go up the far side. Well, I mean, not almost certainly, he definitely will go up the far side. He won't have any chance to anything else really unless he stops and goes around the back. Number 4 going through is SAHER, wonderfully consistent last year. SAHER, that form really says all there is about him. He's been always bang there. He had 14 runs and he won 4 and he's placed 5 times. And real credit to his trainer, Ron Sheether. He's drawn 9, so lucky to be on the far side bunch. 16 to 1. Quite fancy this. I wouldn't put you off that at all. But 10 going through, there's Renovate from Pat Edery, who had a winner for his trainer, Jack Hardy, earlier in the week. But 30 to 1. Not guaranteed to get the trip, Renovate. And is one which the stable's in form. But I am dangerously enough passing it over. And Renovate drawn 8, so we'll be lucky with the far side bunch. Up. Now as the camera settles, that's last year's winner, King's Ride, who, remember, had Black Minstrel behind him last year. They're waiting to be about together this year. The ground, I don't think, is quite as soft as last year now. He really needs further than this mile, but it's very testing. Of course, they go a really good gallop with 20-odd runners. It's very testing. He picks them up at the end of the race, but I just wonder whether it'll be quite testing enough. Drawn 12 in the middle. He'll be really running on at the end. Comes from a real master, a big handicap trainer, and he might go well. Here's BEZIQUE in the colours that Blustery carried to win the Lincoln back in '77 from Mark Smiley's stable. Looks very fit and well, this one, and really was well in herself in the paddock. There's been, I know, some quite strong money for this from Lambourne area. Drawn 17, so likely to be on the group on this side. And they're going across there is POYLE Crusher in the Peter Hopkins colours. Tony Clark in the saddle, who had a nasty bang yesterday at the start. Got a bit hot in the paddock, POYLE Crusher. Ran over hurdles, didn't really like hurdles that much. Didn't really take to the game. But won first time out last year. You may remember the Guineas trial. Was in bottomless mud. But Josh thinks that the actual horse likes good ground. I think may have just a bit too much to do, but not that bad a handicap in some cases, but 9 stone 6 he's got to carry. That's BONOL, Kevin Hodgson, 13 Border Brook, who we've seen. BONOL, wonderfully tough, ran on Thursday, and Peter Easterby wins practically every big race, so why not this one, I suppose you could almost say. Leicester walking across on 7. There's Abington walking across to the right. Abington, ridden by Eddie Hyde. We've dropped off Abington. Let me just talk about him while we're through. But we were talking about Abington, but we've now got Raconteur in the middle of the picture, who was with Bruce Hobbs last year, ridden by George Duffield. Won 2 of his 7 races. Now with Tony Gillam. Likely to be perfectly reasonable chance. His best form, drawn 18. There's Abington in the centre there, with the noseband. Abington on the left of those. Here he is. Ridden by the master tactician Eddie Hyde, and he's drawn 1, and drawn 2 rather, and will therefore be a definite performance trying to get through. There's Black Minstrel there with the hoop up the far side. 3 walking through here is Heron's Hollow, favourite from Guy Harwood's stable. One thinks the ground might just be a bit softer than Heron's Hollow likes. Won this day last year, won his first 2, and as you saw, had a really good run in the second race, Guy Harwood's stable. And I remember being down in the yard about a month ago, and Heron's Hollow was already doing really decent work, and won't like much in condition. Drawn 16, so likely to be this side. 8 to 1 favourite on the last showing. LINGDALE following. There is a recalcitrant Abington, who we've tried to talk about 8 times, but here we are at last. Well, no, he's just a bit out of picture. That's Black Minstrel. Here's Abington. Drawn 2, so Edward Hyde will be trying to go across. He got a bit hot in the paddock. A really able horse, this, and some Newmarket people are very, very sweet on his chance. 14 to 1. Edward will know, trying to get to that far rail. My own feeling is that he just let us down a little bit last year. Very able, and Abington, with only 8 stone 8, just could outclass them at these weights. I could see him winning by a decent margin, but my personal feeling is that he might just not be the sort of horse for this roughhouse. Here's betting.
And Abington's there at 12 to 1, but the money is for Folk Hero now 7 to 1. 7 to 1 from 8 to 1, having opened up at 11 to 1. Herons Hollow is 9 to 1 from 8s. Black Minstrel at 10 to 1 from an opening price of 15 to 2. Abington at 12s. Glasgow Central, money for him, also 12 to 1, having opened up at 16s. Cyprus Sky and PARLOUR Game 14 to 1, and SAHER also 14 to 1 from 16s. BONOL and BEZIQUE both 16 to 1. LAFONTAINE now just gone to 14 to 1 from 16s. King's Ride is 16 to 1. Greenwood Star and POYLE Crusher both at 20s. LINGDALE, RENOVATE, BROOK and Hurricane Hill all 33 to 1. Raconteur at 40s and Welcome 50 to 1.
And there is Black Minstrel, who was fourth last year and has had a run this season, and he finished close up behind in Fijar, the French 2,000 guineas winner. And on that, strictly on the book, he represents the French 2,000 guineas winner in here with 8 stone 9, which makes him a nailed-on certainty, really. And I must say, he is the time form selection. He has a major chance. Whether the ground's absolutely totally soft enough, whether he really stays a mile in a truly run race is a slightly open question, but I have to tell you, he's a selection of many keen pundits. Drawn 14, and with young Walter Swinburne on board. Walter, of course, now first jockey this season to Michael Stout. That's Hurricane Hill in the background there. The interesting money has been for Glasgow Central as Herons Hollow. Glasgow Hill out the far left, Hurricane Hill rather, ridden by Richard Fox and Willie Mussel's Yard. Won last year at Bath over 6 furlongs, 33 to 1. It would be an outside if it came up, and a pretty sporting one. Richard Fox, drawn 6, so lucky to go to the outside there. 19 there, LaFontaine, who we talked about, Ernie Johnson, is very well handicapped to Clyde Britton horse. There's Abington, there's Brook. Glasgow Central, saw him out this morning. He's been well back to see, and in the ring, he's been much the strongest supported. He's in stall 5 out on the far side. He was really well when he was out on the track this morning from Ryan Price's stable. 1-2 races, and will love the ground. So the last one's beginning to load up for this, the 1981 William Hill Lincoln. Just looking back there comes Hurricane Hill. Abington going to have the hood on to go in late. A really able horse, Abington, and watch to see what happens early on. Whether if they split, whether the horses this side will have such a major advantage. I'm going to try and test that and support Leicester, but yesterday's evidence was that they have 4 lengths to 5, but the ground has dried up quite a lot. We'll see. It's Brook not being very keen. Black Minstrel going in. Closest to us is Welcome. Nearest here, we haven't seen him, with Steve Cawthon on, who was reported not going to be a runner 2 days ago. Had banged a foot or something. He's actually in the stall closest to us, Welcome. Steve Cawthon on board, stall 20. So will this draw be the same as yesterday? We'll see. It's one of the fascinations of the Lincoln. 17 to 2 Henry this morning, or this week. Not going to do much good. And we made a missed ball. Here's Graham.
They're under starters' orders and they're off. BEZIQUE slowly into its stride. Brook didn't come under orders. King's Ride is one of the early leaders, and the field splitting into 2 groups. And those on the stand side include Folk Hero, I think Raconteur was on the far side. It looks like Herons Hollow, who's gone right over onto that far rail. Also up with them on the far side is Abington. Just behind the leaders is POYLE Crusher, coming down to the point 6 furlongs from home. And on the stand side, Folk Hero, and also with Folk Hero now BEZIQUE just behind them, whilst on the far side, it's on the very far side LINGDALE and also POYLE Crusher coming down to the halfway stage. And on the stand side, Folk Hero from Welcome and Raconteur, whilst on the far side, it's POYLE Crusher in the lead from Cyprus Sky and Abington. Just over 3 furlongs to go. And on the stand side, Folk Hero, Welcome and BEZIQUE. On the far side, it's Cyprus Sky with SAHER finishing strongly. BONOL coming up the centre of the course with a strong run. So too Herons Hollow, but 2 furlongs out. And on the far side, SAHER strikes the front. On the stand side, BEZIQUE is clear, and SAHER has the advantage with 1.5 furlongs to go over the whole field. SAHER the leader from BONOL in second place. Then Herons Hollow finishing strongly. Just over 1 furlong to go. SAHER in the lead and clear from Herons Hollow in second place, coming well inside the final half furlong. It's SAHER in the lead, but he's tiring. Herons Hollow is finishing fast, so too is Hurricane Hill, coming well inside the final half furlong. SAHER and Herons Hollow, both of the 2 between them. It's going to be a photograph. SAHER for me, SAHER, Herons Hollow. Then came Hurricane Hill and BONOL and LINGDALE and Black Minstrel and RENOVATE and BEZIQUE and GREENWOOD Star. Then came King's Ride and LaFontaine, and behind LaFontaine was POYLE Crusher, and behind POYLE Crusher was Folk Hero, and the last to pass the post was in fact Welcome. But there's no doubt about it, it's a photograph finish for this, the outcome of the William Hill Handicap, between SAHER, who made majority of the running on the far side, and in fact he has already been announced as the winner. SAHER the winner from, in second place, Herons Hollow. Third home was number 21, which was Hurricane Hill. The fourth home, the top-weighted BONOL. Let's see the action once again with Bruscott.
Yes, SAHER well clear at this stage, and one thought he was going to come home alone, but he made a lot of running and he was getting tired towards the end. Chased by BONOL at that stage, Black Minstrel coming in with the hoop, and Herons Hollow, who had actually been drawn 16, but Greville Starkey somehow tacked across, and it did turn out totally fatal to be drawn this side. If you actually stayed this side, you might as well stay to home. Only Blustery put up any sort of a challenge on this near rail. So SAHER out clear, Herons Hollow along the rail, BONOL then going backwards, Hurricane Hill coming with the noseband, and Black Minstrel also not really getting home, and Greenwood Star beginning to run along the far rail. But now SAHER drifts away from the rail, drifting out into the centre of the course. Ray Cochrane going for everything, but he's tiring all the time. The horse is tying up with him, and Herons Hollow, with the advantage of the rail, Greville Starkey giving him everything, is catching him all the way. But the advantage is still with SAHER. As they get to the line, he just hangs off. He finishes, he's come right across the track. He finishes right over towards this side, but he hangs on in the end. Herons Hollow's run a really gallant race. He must have done a great zigzag at the beginning to finish second. Hurricane is third, and the distance is a half a length and 1.5 lengths. And here's Graham.
SAHER winning his 7th race, and the 14-to-1 winner of the William Hill Lincoln Handicap, winning his 7th race, and a really game-genuine performer he is too. A big race success this for Ron Sheether, likeable trainer in Newmarket, and by sure the biggest success for his jockey Ray Cochrane.